When Nathaniel Hayes found his CEO crying alone at 2 in the morning, he thought it was grief. He was right. But what happened next, a friendship that broke every corporate rule, a Saturday morning ritual that saved two broken souls, and a fight against a board that couldn't accept love after loss would change everything. But first, she had to stop calling him the warehouse guy. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story reaches. The alarm didn't need to ring. Nathaniel Hayes was already awake at 6:15, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom in North Seattle. Same ceiling he'd stared at for 3 years. Same water stain shaped like Ohio. Same silence that used to be filled with breathing that wasn't his own. He sat up, 40 years old, body that worked, mind that remembered too much. A daughter sleeping 2 doors down who needed breakfast, and a father who didn't fall apart before her eyes. The house was a rental. 1,500 square feet in a neighborhood where kids rode bikes and Mrs. Dorothy Sullivan next door baked cookies that appeared on doorsteps without explanation. The kind of place where people knew your name and asked how you were doing and actually waited for the answer. Nate swung his legs off the bed. Work boots by the door, uniform in a heap because he'd been too tired at 6:30 that morning to hang it properly. Warehouse supervisor, night shift, 11 at night until 6 in the morning, 5 days a week. Home before the school buses started running. Home before Harper woke up. He moved through the hallway past photos he couldn't look at too long. Isabel in her wedding dress laughing at something off camera. Harper as a newborn, red-faced and perfect, cradled in her mother's arms. The three of them at Pike Place Market, fish flying through the air behind them. Harper maybe 4 years old, gap-toothed and delighted. The kitchen smelled like old coffee and the faint sweetness of strawberry syrup Harper liked on her pancakes. Nate filled the pot, started the machine, listened to it gurgle and hiss while he pulled eggs from the fridge and bread from the drawer and tried not to calculate how many mornings he'd done this exact routine. 1,095 mornings, give or take. 3 years since Isabel died. 3 years since breast cancer took 18 months to win a fight she never had a fair chance in. 3 years since Harper was 5 and asking why mommy wasn't waking up, and Nate had to explain that sleep and death were different things even though they looked the same. The eggs hit the pan, scrambled. Harper didn't like them any other way. 2 pieces of toast, light butter, strawberry jam in the shape of a smiley face because some mornings required that level of effort. He heard her before he saw her. Small feet on hardwood, the kind of shuffle step that meant she was dragging her stuffed elephant. Mr. Floppy, original name, courtesy of a 3-year-old who'd since grown into an 8-year-old with significantly better naming skills, but refused to change it out of loyalty. Harper appeared in the doorway, brown hair sticking up in directions that defied physics. Isabel's eyes, Nate's stubborn chin, pajamas with spaceships on them because last week she'd decided she wanted to be an astronaut. Next week it would be something else. Veterinarian, marine biologist, president of the United States. She yawned, rubbed her eyes, looked at him with the kind of clarity 8-year-olds shouldn't possess. You just got home. Yeah, sweetheart, about half an hour ago. You look tired. I always look tired at 6:30. She patted across the kitchen, climbed onto her chair, set Mr. Floppy on the table facing her like he was joining them for breakfast. Nate slid the plate in front of her, eggs, toast, orange juice in the plastic cup with the princess on it that she insisted she wasn't too old for. Are you going to sleep after you take me to school? That's the plan. For how long? Couple hours, I'll be up before lunch. Harper picked up her fork, studied the eggs like they contained secrets. Then she looked at him with those eyes that saw everything. Daddy, can we do the thing? The thing. The ritual they'd started 6 months after Isabel died. The thing that had become as necessary as breathing. Nate set down his coffee mug, came around the table, knelt beside her chair so they were eye level. Harper turned to face him fully. She held up her arms. He pulled her into a hug. Not too tight, not too loose, just right. The way Isabel used to hug her before school every single morning. Harper started counting, out loud, like she always did. 1. Nate closed his eyes. 2. Her small arms around his neck. 3. The weight of her, solid, real, alive. 4. He could feel her heartbeat against his chest. 5. Steady, strong. 6. This was why he kept going. 7. This was the point of everything. 8. She smelled like sleep and strawberry shampoo. 9. 3 more seconds. 10. 2 more. 11. 1 more. 12. Almost. 13. Here it comes. 14. Harper pulled back, smiled at him with a smile that broke his heart and put it back together simultaneously. I love you is 14 letters when you say the whole thing, she explained, like she did every morning, like it was scientific fact. I space LOVE space YOU. The spaces count, too. Mommy said the spaces are part of the sentence. They're what holds the words together. The spaces matter, Nate repeated softly. Harper nodded, satisfied, turned back to her eggs like they'd accomplished something important, which they had. Nate stood, returned to his coffee, watched his daughter eat breakfast while morning light filtered through the kitchen window, and another day began that Isabel wasn't here to see. After breakfast came the routine. Harper brushed her teeth while Nate packed her lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, carrot sticks she wouldn't eat, but he included anyway. Granola bar, juice box, everything in the lunchbox with the astronauts on it that matched her current career aspirations. She emerged from the bathroom, toothpaste on the corner of her mouth, and Nate wiped it away with his thumb while she squirmed and protested. Backpack on, shoes tied, jacket zipped despite her insistence that it wasn't cold enough to need it. 7:45. Right on schedule. The walk to school was 6 blocks. Harper held his hand for the first 3, then decided she was old enough to walk independently for the last 3, which meant she walked exactly 1 step ahead of him the entire time, glancing back every 10 seconds to make sure he was still there. Other parents, other kids, waves, nods. The kind of community acknowledgement that said, we're all doing this together, even though Nate often felt like he was doing it alone. Madison Elementary, red brick, blue doors, flags snapping in the morning breeze, kids swarming the entrance like ants finding sugar. Harper turned at the bottom of the steps, looked at him seriously. You promise you'll be awake when I get home? I promise. And we'll do homework together. Every single problem. And you'll do the voices when we read, all the voices, even the dragon. She grinned, started up the steps, stopped, came back down, hugged him again. Quick, fierce. Then she was gone, disappearing into the flood of children, her backpack bouncing, her hair still sticking up in those impossible directions. Nate stood there until he couldn't see her anymore. Then he turned and walked home. The house was quiet when he returned. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that used to be filled with Isabel, asking about his night, telling him about her plans for the day, kissing him before he collapsed into bed for a few hours of sleep before the cycle started again. Now it was just quiet. He moved through the living room. More photos. Isabel everywhere. Young, healthy, before the diagnosis that changed everything. Nate didn't take them down. Harper needed to see her mother's face. Needed to remember. And if he was honest, so did he. In the corner on a small desk that used to be Isabel sat a laptop. Old, outdated, but functional. Next to it a stack of textbooks. Systems engineering, mechanical design, aerospace dynamics. Books from another life. Books he hadn't opened in 3 years but couldn't bring himself to throw away. A knock at the door interrupted his staring contest with his past. Mrs. Dorothy Sullivan stood on the porch holding a covered dish that smelled like heaven. She was 68. Gray hair pulled back in a practical bun, glasses on a chain around her neck. A widow herself. Husband dead 12 years from a heart attack that took him in his sleep. Morning, Nate. Morning, Mrs. Sullivan. Made too much casserole again. Thought you and Harper might want it for dinner. This was a lie. Mrs. Sullivan never made too much of anything. She cooked for him and Harper deliberately, consistently, with the kind of generosity that didn't require acknowledgement. That's really kind of you. It's nothing. How was your shift? Same as always. Inventory, shipments, making sure everything runs smooth. She studied him with eyes that saw through his rehearsed responses. You look more tired than usual. Just one of those weeks. No, you look sad. There's a difference. Nate didn't know what to say to that. Mrs. Sullivan didn't wait for a response. Isabel would be so proud of you, Nate. The way you're raising that girl. The way you show up every single day. That takes strength most people don't have. Words stuck in his throat. He nodded. Mrs. Sullivan handed him the casserole, patted his arm with a hand that had raised 4 children and buried 1 husband and knew exactly what carrying on looked like. Get some sleep. I'll be here when Harper gets home if you need an extra hour. Thank you. She left. Nate closed the door, set the casserole on the counter, stood in his kitchen at 8:30 in the morning, exhausted and grateful and so achingly lonely he could barely breathe. He slept for 3 hours, dreamless, deep, the sleep of someone who worked with their body and pushed their mind into corners where it couldn't wander. At noon, he woke, made lunch, cleaned the kitchen, did laundry, folded Harper's clothes and put them in her dresser. Ordinary tasks that filled the hours until 3:15 when she'd come bursting through the door with stories about her day. He picked her up from school. She talked the entire 6 blocks home about math class and a boy named Tyler who ate paste and her friend Emma who could do a cartwheel. Nate listened, nodded, asked questions, present, engaged, the way Isabel would have been. Homework at the kitchen table, spelling words, multiplication tables, a worksheet about the solar system that Harper finished in 10 minutes because she'd memorized the order of the planets last year and considered them old friends. Dinner, Mrs. Sullivan's casserole. Delicious. Harper ate 3 helpings. Bath time, book time. Harper's current obsession was a series about a girl who could talk to animals. Nate read 2 chapters doing different voices for the girl, the fox, the wise old owl who dispensed advice and riddles. Do it again, Harper demanded when he finished. Do what again? The owl voice. It's funny. So he did the owl voice again, making it even more ridiculous, and Harper laughed until she couldn't breathe, and for those few seconds, everything was okay. 8:30, bedtime. He tucked her in, pulled the covers up to her chin, kissed her forehead. Daddy? Yeah, sweetheart. Do you miss Mommy? Always, every second, with an intensity that sometimes made it hard to function. Yeah, baby, I miss her a lot. Me too. I know. But I'm glad I have you. His chest tightened. I'm glad I have you too. She yawned, eyes already closing, one hand clutching Mr. Floppy. Safe. Loved. The most important thing he'd ever done right. Nate stayed until her breathing evened out. Then he moved through the house, turning off lights, checking locks, preparing for another night shift. 10:15. Time to go. He stood in the doorway of his bedroom, looking at the half of the bed he never slept on. Isabel's pillow still there, her nightstand with a book she'd never finish. 3 years and he couldn't move any of it. Couldn't erase her, couldn't let go. But he could keep going, for Harper. Always for Harper. He grabbed his keys, locked the door behind him, drove through Seattle's nighttime streets toward Kendall and Row Industries. The warehouse sat on the industrial edge of the city, massive, utilitarian, the kind of building that prioritized function over form, concrete and steel, and the smell of cardboard and diesel. Nate pulled into the parking lot at 10:50. Night shift started at 11 sharp. He was never late, never missed a day. Reliable, dependable, invisible. He changed in the small locker room that smelled like sweat and industrial cleaner. Warehouse supervisor uniform. Navy blue shirt with his name embroidered over the pocket. Cargo pants, steel-toed boots. Nothing special. Nothing that stood out. Tommy O'Brien was already on the floor checking inventory on a tablet. Tommy was 52, red-faced, barrel-chested, operated a forklift like other men played piano. He'd worked here 23 years, knew every corner of this warehouse, treated Nate with the respect one blue-collar worker gives another. Hayes, how's the kid? Good, yours, teenager. Everything's a crisis. How'd I get old enough to have a teenager? Beats me. Beth Callahan rolled past on a pallet jack moving boxes of electronics components that would ship to Portland in the morning. Beth was 37, single, 2 kids at home with a mother who watched them while Beth worked nights. She had opinions about everything and shared them freely. Did you see the memo? She called out. What memo? CEO's doing a facility tour tonight, coming through here around midnight. Nate's stomach tightened slightly. Catherine Whitmore, the CEO. He'd seen her exactly 3 times in 2 years. Once when she'd toured the facility after taking over. Once at a company meeting that had been mandatory. Once in passing when her car had driven through the parking lot while he was on break. She'd never looked at him. Not really. Not the way you look at a person. More the way you glance at furniture. Necessary, functional, unremarkable. Great, Nate said, meaning the opposite. Probably just checking boxes, Tommy said, making sure we're not stealing inventory or sleeping on the clock. The night stretched out ahead of them, shipments to verify, orders to pull, inventory to reconcile. The same task they'd done every night, the same routine that paid the bills and kept Harper in school supplies and gave Nate something to do with his hands while his mind tried not to drift. At 11:47, the fluorescent lights in the warehouse reflected off a black sedan pulling into the loading bay area. Nate watched from a station near the inventory terminal. The car stopped. Driver emerged first, then her. Catherine Whitmore stepped out of the vehicle like she was stepping onto a stage. 38 years old according to the company bio Nate had read once. 2 years younger than him. But that's where the similarities ended. She wore a suit that probably cost more than Nate's monthly rent. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. Hair pulled back in a severe bun that suggested she didn't have time for anything frivolous. Heels that clicked against the concrete floor with the authority of someone who owned the building and everyone in it. Beside her, Griffin Blake, board member, former business partner, 50-something with silver hair and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He gestured around the warehouse like he was giving a lecture. Nate couldn't hear the conversation from where he stood, but he saw them moving through the facility, saw Griffin pointing things out, saw Catherine nodding, taking notes on a tablet. They approached the area where Nate worked. He straightened slightly, professional, ready to answer questions if asked. Griffin barely glanced at him. Catherine didn't look at all. "Your logistics seem efficient," someone said. A man in an expensive suit following them. Investor, client, someone important enough to warrant the midnight tour. Griffin smiled, the smile of someone who took credit for things he hadn't built. "Oh, we have good people. Warehouse supervisors, forklift drivers. They keep things moving." The dismissal in his voice was subtle, but the tone that suggested blue-collar workers were interchangeable parts, necessary, but not notable. Catherine's expression didn't change. She nodded, like agreeing with an obvious fact. Like Nate and Tommy and Beth were fixtures rather than people. They moved on, disappeared into another section of the warehouse. Never asked Nate's name, never acknowledged his existence. He stood there for a moment, feeling something he couldn't quite name. Not anger, not hurt, something quieter. Something that had been building for 3 years of being invisible. The night continued. Shipments processed, orders fulfilled. Midnight came and went. At 2 in the morning, Nate realized he'd forgotten to get Catherine Whitmore's signature on an urgent shipment manifest. The manifest needed executive approval, company policy, something about liability and insurance. He radioed up to the main office. No answer. Called the night manager's line, voicemail. The manifest had to be signed tonight. The shipment was leaving at 6 a.m. Without the signature, it would be delayed. Cost the company money. Create problems. Nate stood in the warehouse holding the clipboard, weighing his options. He could leave it. Hope the day shift dealt with it. Pass the responsibility to someone else. But he'd never done that. Never passed off problems. Never assumed someone else would handle it. He checked the security log. Catherine's car was still in the parking lot. She was still in the building. Probably in her office, the 8th floor, executive territory, where warehouse supervisors didn't go. Nate took the elevator, watched the numbers climb, felt increasingly out of place as the floors ticked past. 7, 8. The doors opened onto a different world. Plush carpet, subdued lighting, artwork on the walls, the smell of expensive coffee and furniture polish. It was silent up here. Empty. Everyone had gone home hours ago, except the light from the corner office was on. Door slightly ajar. Nate approached carefully, quietly, not wanting to startle anyone, not wanting to intrude. He heard it before he saw anything. Music, soft, melancholic, the kind of melody that sounded like remembering, then crying, quiet, controlled, but unmistakable. Nate stopped outside the door. Should leave, should come back tomorrow, should not witness whatever private moment was happening inside that office. But something made him look through the gap. Catherine Whitmore stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle's nighttime skyline. She held a framed photograph. Her back to the door, shoulders shaking slightly. She was crying, really crying, not the controlled tears of someone who cried in private, but the broken sobs of someone who thought they were completely alone. She swayed slightly, almost like dancing, clutching the photo frame to her chest, moving in small circles to music only she seemed to hear. Nate recognized that kind of crying, that kind of dancing, that kind of alone. He'd done it himself. In his bedroom, in the shower, in the car on the way home from work, when Harper wasn't there to see. His hand moved before his brain caught up, knocked gently on the doorframe. The crying stopped instantly. Catherine spun around. Her face was devastated. Mascara streaked, eyes red, raw, vulnerable. For exactly 3 seconds, Nate saw a person. Not a CEO, not someone powerful, just someone breaking in the dark. Then her face changed. closed, the mask sliding back into place with practiced speed. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was ice. "This floor is restricted after midnight." Nate held up the clipboard, tried to keep his voice steady, professional. "Ma'am, I'm Nathaniel Hayes, warehouse supervisor. I have an urgent shipment manifest that needs your signature." I tried calling, but nobody answered. "I apologize for disturbing you." She stared at him, really looked at him for the first time, seeing him, recognizing that he existed. "Your warehouse," she said. Not a question, a categorization. "Yes, ma'am. And you came up here at 2 in the morning for a signature. The shipment leaves at 6. Company policy requires executive approval for anything over a certain value. This qualifies." Catherine set the photo frame down quickly, turned slightly away from him, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand in a gesture that was more vulnerable than anything he'd ever seen from her. "Just leave it on my desk. I'll sign it." Nate should have done exactly that, should have set down the clipboard and left. Let her have her privacy. Let her maintain the dignity of someone who didn't want witnesses to their breaking. But he'd been where she was, alone, crying, pretending the darkness could hide the pain. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "are you okay?" The question hung in the air between them. Inappropriate, crossing a line, but honest. Catherine turned back to face him fully. Her eyes were still wet, still red. But now they held something else. Surprise, maybe confusion. "Am I okay?" She repeated the question like it was in a foreign language. "Why would you ask that?" "Because I heard you crying, and I—" Nate hesitated, then pushed forward. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer. And I know what that kind of crying sounds like. You don't have to be alone with it." The silence that followed was complete, total. The kind of silence that happens when something fundamental shifts. Catherine's composure cracked. Just a little. Just enough. "Today is 5 years," she whispered. 5 years since the plane crash. My husband, Alexander. My daughter, Madeline. Gone. Just gone. Nate's heart broke for her completely. He understood every word she wasn't saying. "I'm so sorry." She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Really seeing him. "You said you lost your wife." "Isabel, breast cancer. We fought it for 18 months. She was 34 when she died." "Do you have children?" "A daughter, Harper. She's 8. Catherine's hand went to her mouth. "You have an 8-year-old, and you work night shift. So I can have days with her. She lost her mother. She needs her father. So I work when she sleeps, and I'm there when she's awake." Something in Catherine's expression changed, softened, crumbled slightly. "I work all hours to avoid being awake," she said, "to avoid the empty house, the rooms I can't enter, the life I can't live anymore." They stood there, CEO and warehouse supervisor, 2 strangers, but not strangers at all. "Can I ask," Nate said carefully, "why were you dancing?" Catherine's eyes filled with fresh tears. She looked at the photo frame on her desk. Nate couldn't see the image from where he stood, but he knew what it showed. "Madeline loved to dance. My daughter, she was 7. She'd make me dance with her in the kitchen while dinner cooked. I'd always say I was too busy, had work to do, calls to make, and she'd grab my hands and say, 'Mama busy is just scared of fun.'" Catherine's voice broke. She took a breath, continued. "So tonight I came here because I can't go home. Can't stand in that house with her room exactly the way she left it, with Alexander's office still full of his things. And I dance, because it's the only time I feel close to them, the only time I feel anything at all besides this emptiness." Nate understood. God, he understood. "Harper hugs me every morning for exactly 14 seconds, he heard himself say. Her mother used to hug her for that long before school. She counts out loud, every single day, 1 through 14, and I hold her and pretend I'm not falling apart." Catherine looked at him with recognition that transcended their difference in status. Recognition of shared pain, shared loss, shared survival. "You're not just warehouse, are you?" she said quietly. Nate smiled sadly. "I used to be an engineer. Aerospace, MIT, worked on systems designed for commercial aircraft. But when Isabel got sick, none of that mattered. Career didn't matter. Prestige didn't matter. She mattered. So I quit, came home, took care of her for 18 months until she died. And then I took care of Harper. Still do, will until I can't anymore." Catherine sat down slowly in her desk chair. stared at him like he'd revealed himself to be someone completely different than she'd assumed. You gave up everything. I gave up a career. I kept my family. For 18 more months, I had Isabel. I buried Shrom. Harper had her mother. That was worth more than any job title. The office was quiet except for the soft music still playing from somewhere. A moment suspended between two people who recognized each other's scars. Catherine pulled a business card from her desk drawer, wrote something on the back with a pen that probably cost more than Nate's weekly grocery budget, held it out to him. This is my personal number, she said. If you ever need to not be alone, if you ever need someone who understands what it means to keep functioning when everything inside is broken, call. Nate took the card, looked at it, looked at her, saw a person. Not a CEO, not someone untouchable, just someone trying to survive the same way he was. Thank you, he said. Thank you, she echoed, for not pretending you didn't see, for not leaving me alone with it. Nate set the clipboard on her desk, pointed to the signature line. Catherine signed it without looking, handed it back. I'm sorry for the intrusion, Nate said. You weren't intruding. You were human. That's becoming rare around here. He nodded, started to leave, stopped at the door. Ms. Whitmore. Catherine, please. Catherine, grief is the strangest thing. It doesn't get smaller. We just get stronger at carrying it. And sometimes the weight gets lighter when someone else acknowledges it's there. Her eyes were luminous with moisture. That might be the truest thing anyone said to me in 5 years. Nate left, took the elevator back down to the warehouse, processed the shipment, finished his shift. But something had shifted. Some wall had cracked. Some connection had formed between two people who had nothing in common except everything that mattered. At 6:15 in the morning, Nate drove home through Seattle's waking streets, Catherine's business card in his pocket, and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Not hope exactly, but possibility. That maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to carry all of this alone. The business card sat on Nate's kitchen counter for 3 days, white, embossed. Catherine Elise Whitmore, Chief Executive Officer. And on the back, in handwriting that looked rushed but elegant, a phone number. He walked past it every morning, every evening, noticed it there, thought about it, did nothing. On Thursday night, after Harper was asleep and the house was dark and quiet and too empty, Nate picked up his phone, stared at the card, put the phone down, picked it up again. What do you say to someone you met while they were breaking? What do you say to a CEO when you're a warehouse supervisor who happened to witness the most private moment of her life? He typed, deleted, typed again. This is Nate Hayes, the warehouse guy. Just wanted to say, I hope you're doing okay. He stared at the message for 5 full minutes before hitting send, then immediately regretted it. Too casual, too presumptuous. She probably didn't even remember giving him her number. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. I remember you, Nate, and I'm doing the same as always, surviving. How's Harper? Something in his chest loosened. She remembered Harper's name. That mattered more than it should have. She's good. Asked me today why clouds don't fall down. I explained gravity. She asked if gravity ever gets tired. 8-year-old logic. Madeline used to ask questions like that. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds sing? Where do thoughts come from? I never had good answers. Nobody does. That's the secret of parenting. We're all just making it up. That's terrifying. Welcome to my daily existence. A pause, then, I haven't talked to anyone about Madeline in years, not really. People get uncomfortable when you mention dead children. Nate understood that completely. People still ask about Isabel like she went on a trip she'll return from. How's your wife? Like I didn't explain she died 3 years ago the last time they asked. Do you ever feel like you're living 2 lives, the one where you function and smile and do your job, and the one where you're still frozen in the hospital room when they told you she was gone? Every single day. They texted until 1 in the morning, about grief, about guilt, about the impossible task of being present for your life when half of you died with someone else, about Harper and Madeline and all the things those children would never know about how hard their surviving parents were fighting. Friday night, they texted again. Saturday morning, and Nate woke up to a message sent at 4 a.m. Can't sleep. Tomorrow is Saturday. I don't know what to do with Saturdays anymore. They used to be family days. Now they're just long. Nate made coffee, sat at his kitchen table, took a risk that felt bigger than it probably was. Harper has soccer tomorrow, 9 a.m., neighborhood league. She's terrible at it, but loves it anyway. If you want something to do on a Saturday morning, you're welcome to come watch bad youth soccer and drink mediocre concession stand coffee. He hit send before he could overthink it. Catherine's response came 3 minutes later. Is that appropriate? You work for my company. I work night shift in a warehouse you've visited twice. We're about as connected as I am to the guy who stocks grocery shelves at the store where I buy cereal. And I'm not asking as an employee. I'm asking as someone who understands what Saturdays feel like now. 5 minutes passed. Then, what's the address? Nate sent it, stared at his phone, realized he'd just invited the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company to his daughter's terrible soccer game. Wondered what he'd just done. Wondered if she'd actually show up. Saturday morning came with clouds that threatened rain, but hadn't committed. Harper was up at 7, bouncing off the walls, talking about how she was going to score a goal today, even though she'd never scored a goal in her entire 2-season soccer career. I can feel it, Daddy. Today's the day. I believe you, sweetheart. You have to. You're my dem. It's your job to believe impossible things. They drove to the field at 8:30. Nate helped Harper with her shin guards and cleats. Purple and silver, her choice. She ran off to warm up with her team while Nate found his usual spot in the small set of bleachers. Third row, left side, where he'd sat every Saturday for 6 months. Other parents filtered in. Nate knew most of them by face, if not by name. The dad who yelled too much at his son, the mom who brought enough orange slices for the entire team, the grandparents who showed up with a camera and recorded every minute. 8:55, no Catherine. Nate told himself he hadn't actually expected her to come. Told himself it was fine. Told himself he'd just watch his daughter play soccer like he did every week and everything would be normal. 8:58, a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. Not the same one from the warehouse tour. Smaller, less official. Catherine got out wearing jeans and a gray sweater, hair down around her shoulders instead of pulled back severe, sunglasses covering her eyes. She looked like a person, not a CEO, just someone showing up on a Saturday morning to watch children chase a ball around a field. Nate stood up without thinking, waved. She saw him, hesitated for just a second, then walked over. Is this weird? She asked as she climbed the bleachers. This feels weird. I haven't been to a kids' sporting event in 5 years. It's definitely weird, but the good kind. Sit wherever you want. Fair warning, Harper's team loses a lot. Catherine sat next to him. Not too close, appropriate distance, but close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something subtle. Expensive, probably. Which one is Harper? Number 12, purple headband. She insisted on the headband, even though it makes her look like she time-traveled from a disco. Catherine smiled, really smiled, the first genuine smile Nate had seen from her. Madeline would have loved that. She wore tutus everywhere, grocery store, park, church. She said regular clothes were boring. Harper went through a phase where she only wore pajamas. To school, to the store, everywhere. I gave up fighting it. Parenting is just choosing your battles and losing most of them anyway. That should be on a bumper sticker. The whistle blew. The game started. Organized chaos. 8-year-olds swarming the ball like bees around honey. No strategy, no positions, just pure enthusiasm and complete confusion about the rules. Harper got the ball exactly once in the first half, kicked it directly to the other team, smiled anyway. She's happy, Catherine observed. That's all that matters. Is it I spent so much time trying to make Madeline successful? Piano lessons, dance classes, tutoring. I wanted her to excel, to achieve, and now I'd give anything to just watch her be happy. Mediocre at soccer, wearing a disco headband, not caring about winning. Nate didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Just sat beside her while they watched children play and tried to outrun grief for 90 minutes. Halftime. Harper came running over red-faced and sweaty and grinning. Daddy, did you see I almost got it past their defense? You were amazing, sweetheart. Harper noticed Catherine, tilted her head, studied her with the directness only children possess. Who are you, if I I'm Catherine, a friend of your dad's. From work. Sort of. Harper reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out a snack-sized bag of goldfish crackers. The cheese kind. Her favorite bim. She held them out to Catherine. Want some goldfish help, everything? Catherine's vision blurred. She took the bag like Harper had handed her something precious. Thank you, Harper. That's very kind. You're welcome. Are you sad? You look like you might be some. My dad looks sad sometimes too. That's why I give him goldfish. They have little smiles on them. See? Harper pointed to the crackers. Smiles are important. Catherine opened the bag, looked at the goldfish, at Harper, at Nate, back to Harper. You're a very smart girl. I know. Daddy tells me all the time. I'm going to score a goal this half. Watch me. She ran back to the field, left Catherine holding goldfish crackers and fighting tears in a set of bleachers while other parents watched their children play. I didn't plan that, Nate said quietly. She does that with everyone. No, she does that with people who need it. Children know. They always know. The second half started. Harper didn't score. Her team lost 4-1. Nobody cared. The kids lined up to high-five the other team and then scattered to their parents for juice boxes and orange slices and praise for trying. Harper came back sweaty and happy and talking a mile a minute about how next week she'd definitely score because she'd figured out the secret was to run faster. Can we go to the park? She asked. Please, I want to show you I can do the monkey bars now without falling. We can go for a little while. Is Catherine coming? Both of them looked at Catherine. She looked back, uncertain, out of her element, but also something else. Hopeful, maybe. If that's okay, she said. It's super okay, come on. Harper grabbed Catherine's hand without asking and pulled her toward the parking lot. Nate followed, watched his daughter's small hand in Catherine's, watched Catherine let herself be pulled along, watched something shift between all three of them. The park was 4 blocks away, green space and play structures and the smell of fresh-cut grass. Harper ran ahead to claim the monkey bars. Other kids from soccer were there too, a loose community of parents and children spending Saturday morning together. Nate and Catherine sat on a bench, watching, present, not talking much, not needing to. Harper made it halfway across the monkey bars before dropping to the ground with a theatrical groan. I almost had it. You'll get it next time, Nate called. I know I'm building my arm strength. She ran off to try again, determined, resilient, everything Nate hoped she'd be. She's wonderful, Catherine said. Truly, you're doing an incredible job with her. I'm doing my best. Most days that doesn't feel like enough. It's more than enough. She's happy, secure, loved. That's everything. Catherine's hand was resting on the bench between them. Nate's was too, close but not touching. He could feel the warmth of her skin, the proximity that wasn't quite contact. Then Catherine's fingers moved, just slightly, closed the distance, touched his hand, tentative, testing. Nate looked at her. She was staring straight ahead, watching Harper, but her hand was in his, holding on, like she needed something solid to prove this moment was real. He closed his fingers around hers, gentle, sure, holding back. They sat like that for 20 minutes, 2 people on a park bench, holding hands, while children played and life continued around them, and for a brief moment, everything hurt a little less. 3 months passed like water, smooth, easy, natural. Every Saturday, 9 a.m. soccer game, concession stand, coffee that tasted like cardboard, then the park, monkey bars, goldfish crackers, conversations that got deeper each week. Harper adored Catherine, showed her drawings, taught her the names of constellations, asked questions about everything, and listened to answers with complete attention. Catherine started smiling more, laughing sometimes. The tight control in her face loosened week by week. She bought Harper a book about space, then another, then a telescope that was probably too advanced, but Harper loved anyway. You don't have to buy her things, Nate said. I know. I want to. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. At the office, nothing changed. Nate worked his night shifts. Catherine ran the company. They never spoke, never acknowledged each other. Complete professional separation. But every night after Harper was asleep, they texted about their days, about grief, about the impossible task of moving forward while looking backward, about small victories and ordinary struggles and the strange comfort of someone understanding without judgment. Nate didn't know what to call what they were doing. Friends, something more, something undefined. Whatever it was, it made Saturdays worth waking up for. Made the week bearable because Saturday was coming. And then Griffin Blake saw them. It was week 12. Harper had finally made it all the way across the monkey bars without falling. Catherine had cheered. Harper had bowed. They'd all gone for celebratory ice cream at the shop near the park. Nate walked Catherine to her car afterward. Harper was practicing cartwheels on the grass nearby. They stood in the parking lot. talking, close, not touching, but the space between them felt charged, alive. Thank you, Catherine said, for this, for all of it. I didn't know I needed it until I had it. Same. I should go. I have work. On Saturday, every day is work. That's what I tell myself so I don't have to admit I'm avoiding an empty house. You're always welcome here, Saturdays. Or any day Harper and I are doing something. You're part of this now. Catherine smiled, reached out, touched his hand. Brief, but there. I'll text you tonight. I'll be waiting. She got in her car, drove away. Nate watched her go, felt something in his chest that wasn't quite peace but was close. He didn't see Griffin Blake sitting in a Mercedes SUV 3 spaces away. Didn't see the man's face as he watched Nate and Catherine. Didn't see him pull out his phone and make notes. But Griffin saw everything. Monday morning came with gray clouds and the threat of rain that Seattle specialized in. Nate dropped Harper at school and went home to sleep before his shift. His phone buzzed at noon. Catherine. But not a text, a call. She never called. Hey, he answered. We have a problem. Her voice was tight, controlled. The CEO voice, not the Saturday morning voice. What happened? Griffin Blake. He's on the board. He saw us at the park and we need to talk. Can you come to my office after your shift? 6:30 tomorrow morning. Catherine, what's going on? Just come, please. I'll explain everything then. The call ended. Nate stared at his phone, a knot forming in his stomach, the feeling that something fragile was about to break. His shift that night was interminable. Hours dragging, mind racing. What had Griffin seen? What did it matter? They weren't doing anything wrong. Just friends, two people spending time together. Except it was more than that, and everyone knew it, even if they hadn't said it. 6:25 a.m. Nate took the elevator to the 8th floor, tired from work, nervous from not knowing what was coming. Catherine's office door was open. She was pacing, still in yesterday's clothes like she'd been there all night, hair down, no makeup, looking more like the woman he'd found crying than the CEO who ran board meetings. Close the door, she said when she saw him. He did. Griffin saw us at the park. He's been watching, taking notes. He went to the board. And he filed a formal complaint, inappropriate relationship between executive and subordinate employee, conflict of interest, potential favoritism. Nate felt cold. We're not in a relationship. We're friends. I know that, you know that. But Griffin is arguing that the appearance of impropriety is enough. He's calling for an investigation. Investigation into what we watch soccer and eat goldfish crackers. There's nothing to investigate. Catherine stopped pacing, looked at him with eyes that held exhaustion and fear, and something else. Nate, Griffin asked me to marry him. 2 years after Alexander died, he proposed. Romantic dinner, ring, everything. I said no, told him I wasn't ready, would never be ready for him, and he's never forgiven me for it. Everything clicked into place. This is revenge. This is him convincing himself he's protecting me from making a bad decision, from lowering myself, his words, lowering myself to warehouse workers. Nate absorbed that, the insult of it, the classism, the assumption that some people were worth less than others based on job titles and paychecks. So what happens now? HR is launching an investigation. They'll interview us separately, ask about every interaction, every text, every Saturday morning. They'll look for evidence of favoritism, special treatment, anything that suggests our relationship is affecting business decisions. You've never given me special treatment. I'm still on night shift in a warehouse. You've never even acknowledged me at work. I know, but they'll look anyway. And even if they find nothing, the board is concerned about optics, about what it looks like for the CEO to be spending personal time with an hourly employee. They're talking about options. What kind of options? Catherine's face was pale. Transfer, separation, ways to ensure we're not in each other's orbits anymore. The floor felt unsteady. You're saying they might fire me. Not fire, transfer to a different facility, different shift, somewhere you wouldn't be in my vicinity, or they might ask you to resign. With severance, they'd frame it as mutual agreement. And if I refuse, they'll make your life difficult, find reasons, performance issues that don't exist, create a paper trail. Eventually, they'd have grounds for termination. Nate sat down in one of the chairs facing her desk, processed. Harper depended on his income, on his benefits, on the stability of a job that let him be there for her. But he also thought about Saturdays. about Catherine holding his hand on a park bench, about Harper sharing goldfish crackers with someone who needed them, about not being alone anymore. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to tell them all to go to hell. I want to keep having Saturdays. I want to watch Harper play bad soccer and eat ice cream and text you at night about ordinary things. I want something in my life besides work and grief and an empty house." Her voice cracked. "But I also can't let them destroy your job. You have Harper. You need stability. I can't be selfish." "You're not being selfish. You're surviving. We both are." "Then what do we do?" Nate stood, walked to the window, looked out at Seattle waking up, the city where he'd lived his whole life, where Isabel died, where Harper was growing up, where he'd found someone who understood. "We wait. We cooperate with the investigation. We tell the truth, that we're friends, that we have shared experiences with grief, that we spend Saturday mornings together in completely public places, that there's nothing inappropriate about any of it. And if they don't accept that, then we decide if fighting is worth it." Catherine came to stand beside him, close, their reflections in the glass, two people looking at the same view with different fears. "Is it worth it?" she whispered. "Fighting for Saturday mornings and goldfish crackers and hand-holding that makes me feel human again." Nate thought about Harper asking if Catherine was coming tomorrow. Thought about Catherine's smile when Harper finally conquered the monkey bars. Thought about 3 months of texting someone who made loneliness less heavy. "Yeah," he said, "it's worth it." Wednesday afternoon, Nate's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Hayes, this is Amanda Pierce. I'm the Director of Human Resources at Kendall and Rowe. I need to schedule time with you for an interview regarding a complaint that's been filed. Are you available tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Tomorrow was his sleep time, between getting Harper to school and picking her up, the only hours he got to rest. "I can make that work." "Excellent. Please come to the main office. Conference room B. This is a formal interview, Mr. Hayes. I'd advise you to answer all questions honestly and completely." The call ended. Nate sat in his kitchen, stared at nothing. Harper came home from school at 3:15, bubbling with news about art class and a substitute teacher who let them have extra recess. "Is Catherine coming this Saturday?" she asked while Nate helped with homework. "I don't know, sweetheart." "Why not? Did something happen?" How do you explain office politics and HR investigations to an 8-year-old? "Some people at my work have questions about Catherine and me being friends. They think it might be confusing." Harper frowned. "That's stupid." "Harper, it is. You're friends. Friends are supposed to spend time together. That's what friends do." "I know, but adults make everything complicated." "Will they make Catherine stop coming to my games?" "I hope not. But maybe." Nate looked at his daughter, at the worry in her eyes, at the fear of losing someone else, someone she'd started to care about. "Maybe," he admitted, "I'm sorry." Harper was quiet for a long time. Then Mommy used to say that brave isn't not being scared. Brave is being scared and trying anyway. "Are you going to be brave, Daddy?" "I'm going to try, sweetheart." "Good, because Catherine needs brave people. She's sad like us, and sad people need friends who don't give up." Thursday at 2 p.m., Nate sat in conference room B across from Amanda Pierce. She was 50-something. Professional, neutral expression, recording device on the table. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. This interview is regarding a complaint filed by Griffin Blake concerning your relationship with Catherine Whitmore. I need to ask you some questions. Please answer truthfully." "Okay. How long have you known Ms. Whitmore?" 3 months, since early June." "And how did you meet?" "I found her in her office late one night. She was upset. I had a document that needed her signature. We talked." "About what?" "About loss. My wife died 3 years ago. Her husband and daughter died 5 years ago. We realized we had grief in common." "And what happened after that initial conversation?" "She gave me her phone number, asked if I wanted to talk sometime. As friends, people who understood each other." "Did you contact her?" "Yes, a few days later. We started texting." "How often?" "Most nights, after my daughter goes to sleep." "What do you text about?" "Our days, our kids, how hard it is to move forward after losing someone. Normal things friends talk about." Amanda made notes. "And you began meeting in person." "She comes to my daughter's soccer games, Saturday mornings. We watch Harper play, go to the park after, sometimes get coffee or ice cream. That's it. Every Saturday. For the last 12 weeks, yes." Does your daughter know about these meetings? Harper loves Catherine. She shares her snacks with her, shows her drawings. Harper lost her mother. Catherine lost her daughter. They understand each other. Mr. Hayes, has Ms. Whitmore ever shown you favoritism at work? No, never. We don't interact at work, at all. She's the CEO. I'm warehouse night shift. Our paths don't cross. Has she ever given you gifts, money, special treatment of any kind? She bought my daughter books about space. That's it. And she bought them because Harper loves space, not because of me. Have you had physical contact with Ms. Whitmore? Nate hesitated. We've held hands, once, at a park, for maybe 20 minutes. Just holding hands. Just holding hands. Two people sitting on a bench, nothing else. Amanda studied him. Mr. Hayes, I want to be clear. We found no evidence of policy violations. No favoritism. No inappropriate conduct. But the board has concerns about perception, about optics. Do you understand? I understand they're uncomfortable with a CEO being friends with someone they consider beneath her. That's not what I said, but it's what they think. Amanda closed her notebook. The board will make recommendations based on this investigation. You should expect a call early next week. Thank you for your time. Nate left, drove home, texted Catherine. Interview done. They say no violations, but board has concerns. Whatever that means. Her response came immediately. They called me too. They're meeting Monday to decide next steps. I'm scared, Nate. Me too. Friday night. Harper was in bed, house dark and quiet. Nate's phone rang. Thomas Bradford. Company attorney, voice formal, clipped. Mr. Hayes, the board has reviewed the HR investigation findings. While no policy violations occurred, the board has concerns about the appearance of impropriety. We're presenting you with two options. Option 1, transfer to our Tacoma facility. Different shift, no contact with Ms. Whitmore, same pay and benefits. Option 2, remain in your current position but cease all personal contact with Ms. Whitmore outside of necessary work interactions. You have until 9 a.m. Monday morning to decide. If you refuse both options, the board will convene an emergency meeting at 10 a.m. to determine next steps. The line went dead. Nate sat in his dark kitchen, stared at nothing, felt the walls closing in. Transfer meant different hours, different routine, disrupting Harper's life. Maybe not being there for morning hugs and school drop-offs. The whole reason he took this job. Cease contact meant no more Saturdays, no more text, no more hand-holding on park benches. Back to being alone, teaching Harper that caring about people came with punishment. His phone buzzed. Catherine. They gave me an ultimatum too. Enforce their demands on you or face a board vote on my leadership. Nate, I don't know what to do. I can't lose you and Harper and Saturdays. But I also can't let them destroy your life. Nate typed back, what do you want to do? I want to fight. I want to tell them they're wrong. That two people healing each other isn't shameful. That friendship doesn't need their approval. But I'm scared. What if we lose everything? He sat there, phone in hand, thinking about Harper's question. Are you going to die brave, Daddy? Thinking about Isabel, about what she'd say, about how she'd fought cancer for 18 months with courage he couldn't fathom, how she'd never given up even when the odds were impossible. Thinking about Catherine crying alone in her office, about Harper sharing goldfish crackers, about holding hands on a park bench and feeling less alone. Some things were worth fighting for. He called Catherine. She answered on the first ring. I'm not accepting either option, he said. I'm refusing. Let them fire me if they want. But I'm not giving up Saturdays. I'm not teaching Harper that caring about people is wrong. And I'm not letting them tell us how to heal. Silence, then Catherine's voice shaking but strong. Okay, then we fight. Together. Together. They stayed on the phone until midnight, making plans, finding courage. Two people who'd lost everything deciding that maybe, just maybe, they'd found something worth risking everything for again. Monday morning came too fast. Nate stood in his kitchen at 5 a.m., coffee in hand, staring at his phone. The deadline. 9 o'clock. 4 hours to decide between options that both felt like losing. Harper shuffled in, rubbing her eyes. Too early for her to be awake. But she'd been doing this lately. Waking when she sensed something was wrong. Children always knew. Daddy, you're supposed to be sleeping. Couldn't sleep, sweetheart. She climbed into his lap without asking. 8 years old and still small enough to fit. Still young enough to believe her father could fix anything. He held her, breathed in the strawberry shampoo smell of her hair, felt her heartbeat against his chest. Are you in trouble at work? Sort of. They want me to make a choice. And both choices mean things change. Bad changes. Maybe, I don't know yet. Harper pulled back, looked at him with Isabel's eyes, serious, older than 8. Mommy used to say when people give you bad choices, sometimes you have to make your own choice, a brave choice, even if it's scary. When did she tell you that? When she was sick. When the doctors said she could do the treatment that made her feel bad or not do it. She chose the treatment because it gave her more time with us. She said brave isn't picking easy. Brave is picking what matters. Nate's chest tightened. You're right. She did say that. So what matters, Daddy? He looked at his daughter, at the trust in her face, the belief that he'd do the right thing. You matter, always, and Catherine matters, and Saturdays matter, and not teaching you that caring about people is something to be ashamed of. Harper nodded, like it was simple, like the answer had always been obvious. Then that's your choice. At 8:45, Nate called Thomas Bradford. The lawyer answered on the second ring. Mr. Hayes, have you made a decision, Boyan? I have. I'm refusing both options. Silence. Then I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I refuse the transfer. I refuse to end my friendship with Catherine Whitmore. If the board has a problem with two people spending Saturday mornings together on their own time, they can explain their legal grounds for termination. Because I haven't violated any policies. And I won't be bullied into choices that serve someone else's discomfort. Mr. Hayes, I strongly advise you to reconsider. The board can make employment very difficult for you if you're not cooperative. Then let them try. I'm a single father raising a daughter who lost her mother. I work night shifts so I can be there for her during the day. I've done my job well for 2 years. I don't drink. I don't stall. I show up on time every shift. And in my personal time, I'm friends with someone who understands grief because we share it. That's not a crime. That's not even inappropriate. That's being human. Another silence. Longer. I'll inform the board of your decision. They'll likely want to meet with you. Today, 10 a.m. I'll be there. The call ended. Nate's hands were shaking. He'd just bet his job on principle, on Saturdays, on not being alone anymore. His phone buzzed. Catherine. I heard HR just called me. Board meeting at 10. They want both of us there. Nate, are you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Then I'm doing it too. I'm not enforcing their ultimatum. I'm not choosing between my job and my life. Not again. I spent 5 years choosing work over everything. Look where it got me. Alone, frozen, dancing with ghosts in my office at 2 a.m. I'm done with that. They could force you out. Let them try. I have lawyers. I have performance records. I have 5 years of profit margins that speak louder than Griffin Blake's jealousy. And Nate, I have a reason to fight now. That's more than I've had in a long time. 10 o'clock. Conference room on the 8th floor. Long mahogany table. Leather chairs. Windows overlooking the city. The room where decisions got made that affected hundreds of lives. 7 board members sat waiting. Griffin Blake at the far end. Smug. Satisfied, sure he'd already won. Catherine entered first. Suit armor, hair severe, CEO mode. But Nate could see the tension in her shoulders. The fear she was hiding. Nate came in behind her, still in his warehouse uniform. Navy shirt with his name embroidered over the pocket. Steel-toed boots. He hadn't changed, wasn't going to pretend to be something he wasn't. Griffin's eyes flicked over him, dismissive, like Nate was a stain someone forgot to clean. Margaret Walsh sat at the head of the table. Board chair, 70-something, silver hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd built 2 companies from nothing before retiring to board positions. Smart, fair, but traditional. Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. We've asked you here to discuss the findings of our HR investigation and the board's concerns moving forward. Catherine remained standing. Before we begin, I want to state clearly that I will not be enforcing any ultimatum placed on Mr. Hayes. He has done nothing wrong, I have done nothing wrong, and any recommendation that requires us to end a personal friendship is overreach into private lives that has no business in corporate policy. Griffin leaned forward. Catherine, this isn't about personal feelings. This is about perception. Optics, you're the CEO. He's an hourly warehouse worker. People see you together and they assume favoritism, special treatment. That undermines your authority and creates liability for the company. People assume whatever confirms their biases, Catherine shot back. Show me one instance of favoritism. One decision I've made that benefited Mr. Hayes professionally. One policy I've bent. One rule I've broken. You can't, because it doesn't exist. The appearance is enough. The appearance, you mean the appearance that a CEO might be friends with someone you consider beneath her. That's what this is really about, Griffin. Class, status, the idea that some people are worth less than others based on what they do for a living. That's not fair. Isn't it you called him warehouse worker like it was an insult? Like the people who keep this company running every single day are somehow less valuable than board members who show up 4 times a year for meetings. Nate had been silent, listening, but now he spoke. Quiet, controlled. I'd like to say something, if that's allowed. Margaret gestured. Please. My name is Nathaniel Hayes. I'm 40 years old. I work night shifts supervising warehouse operations. I've been with this company 2 years. Never late, never missed a shift, never had a safety violation or inventory discrepancy. I'm good at my job. I take pride in my job, but it's not my whole life. He paused, chose his words carefully. 3 years ago, my wife Isabel died of breast cancer. We fought it for 18 months. Chemo, radiation, surgery, everything. She was 34. We had a 5-year-old daughter named Harper. And when Isabel died, I had a choice. Keep chasing my career or raise my daughter. I chose Harper. Griffin was frowning. What career? I was a senior mechanical engineer at Cascade Aerospace. MIT graduate. 7 years designing systems for commercial aircraft. Good salary, good benefits, good trajectory. But when Isabel got sick, none of that mattered. She mattered. Harper mattered. So I quit, took care of my wife until she died, then took care of my daughter. The room had gone quiet. Every board member was staring. I chose warehouse night shifts specifically because it lets me have days with Harper. I take her to school. I help with homework. I read her bedtime stories with all the voices. I'm there for her in ways my job at Cascade never would have allowed. And yes, I gave up money and prestige in the career I spent years building, but I gained 18 more months with my wife, and I've gained every day with my daughter. He looked directly at Griffin. So when you dismiss me as just a warehouse worker, you're dismissing every choice I made to be a present father. You're suggesting that because I work with my hands now instead of my mind, I'm somehow worth less. That my friendship with Catherine is inappropriate because I'm not in your tax bracket or your social circle. And that's not about corporate policy. That's about prejudice. Margaret Walsh was leaning forward now, interested. Mr. Hayes, you have an engineering degree from MIT. Yes, ma'am. And you're working warehouse by choice because it serves my daughter's needs. Because being Harper's father is more important than any job title. Margaret looked at Catherine. Did you know about his background? Yes, he told me the first night we talked, after I'd spent 5 years assuming people like him weren't worth noticing. After treating him as invisible because he wore a uniform instead of a suit. He showed me I was wrong. And what exactly is your relationship with Mr. Hayes? Catherine took a breath. Friendship. Deep friendship. We're both widowed. Both raising children alone. Both trying to figure out how to keep functioning when grief wants to pull you under. We spend Saturday mornings together. We watch Harper play soccer. We text at night about ordinary things. We hold each other accountable for staying present in our lives instead of hiding in work or empty houses. That's it. That's all of it. And it's the most valuable thing in my life right now besides my job. Griffin stood, face flushed, desperation in his voice. This is exactly what I warned about. She's emotionally compromised, making decisions based on personal feelings rather than professional judgment. This proves my point. Sit down, Griffin. Margaret's voice was steel. Margaret, you can't seriously be siding with them. I'm trying to protect this company. Protect Catherine from making a mistake that could cost us millions in liability. Investors are watching. Shareholders are watching. We can't afford... I said sit down. Griffin remained standing. 5 years ago, Catherine, I was there, at the funeral, holding your hand while you fell apart. I helped you rebuild this company from bankruptcy. I stood by you when everyone else gave up. I earned the right to have an opinion about who you spend your time with. You earned nothing, Catherine said quietly. You were a business partner, a colleague, and yes, a friend. But that didn't give you ownership of my grief or my future. When you proposed, I said no. Not because I wasn't ready, because I didn't love you. I never loved you. And instead of accepting that you've spent 3 years looking for ways to control my life because you couldn't control my heart. Griffin's composure cracked. I would have taken care of you, given you everything. Madeline would have had a father figure. You wouldn't be alone. I am alone by choice, Catherine shot back, because being alone was better than being with someone who saw me as a project to fix rather than a person to love. You wanted to rescue me. Nate just wanted to know me. The difference hung in the air. Stark, undeniable. Griffin looked around the table, searching for support, finding none. This is wrong, he said, but his voice had lost conviction. You're all making a mistake. Margaret stood, walked to where Griffin remained frozen. Let me be very clear. You didn't file this complaint because of company policy. You filed it because Catherine found happiness without you, because a warehouse supervisor succeeded where you failed, because your ego couldn't handle rejection. That's not protecting the company. That's vindictiveness dressed up as concern. She gestured to the door. You're going to resign from this board, effective immediately. You can't force me to resign. No, but I can call for a vote on whether your continued presence serves the company's interests. Given that you've wasted corporate resources on a personal vendetta and created a hostile environment for valuable employees, I don't think that vote will go your way. So, resign gracefully or be removed ungracefully. Your choice. Griffin looked around the table. No allies, no support, just 6 other board members who clearly agreed with Margaret. He stood, buttoned his jacket, looked at Catherine with something that might have been regret or might have been rage. I was trying to protect you. From what happiness? From the possibility that I might heal. I didn't need protection. Griffin, I needed space, I needed time, I needed someone who understood grief without trying to fix it or rush it or use it as leverage. And I found that. Not with you, with Nate, and I'm not apologizing for that. Griffin left, door closing with finality behind him. Margaret turned back to them. HR found no policy violations. This board finds no concerns with your conduct. Catherine, your leadership stands. Mr. Hayes, your employment stands. Does anyone object? Silence nods around the table. Good. Meeting adjourned. The room emptied. Catherine and Nate stood there, still processing, still not quite believing it was over. We won, Catherine whispered. Yeah, we did. She started crying, right there in the conference room, relief, exhaustion, fear releasing all at once. Nate pulled her into a hug without thinking, held her while she shook, felt her hands grip his shirt like she needed something solid to prove this was real. Thank you, she said against his shoulder, for fighting, for not giving up. Thank you for being worth fighting for. They stood like that for a long time. 2 people who'd survived the worst and decided maybe they deserved something good. 2 weeks later, Catherine called Nate on a Tuesday afternoon. Harper was at school. Nate was awake. Unusual. Can you and Harper come to my house this weekend? I need help with something. Something I can't do alone. What is it? Madeline's room, Alexander's office. I need to let go, not of them, but of the museum I've been keeping. And I need people who understand. People who won't rush me or judge me or tell me I should have done this years ago. Saturday morning, they drove to Catherine's house. North Seattle. Expensive neighborhood. Houses with manicured lawns and 3-car garages. The kind of place Nate used to live before Isabel got sick and medical bills ate their savings. Catherine's house was beautiful, massive, and heartbreakingly empty. She let them in, led them upstairs, stopped outside a closed door. Pink paint, name plaque that said Madeline in princess letters. I haven't changed anything in 5 years. Haven't moved a single toy or book. I come in here sometimes and just stand. Like if I stay still enough, I'll hear her voice again. Harper took Catherine's hand. My daddy kept Mommy's clothes in the closet for a long time, until I said maybe someone else could use them, someone who needed them. Mommy always said sharing is how we help people. Catherine knelt down, eye level with Harper. You're very wise. You know that. That's what Daddy says. I think I got it from Mommy. She was the wise one. Madeline was wise too. She'd tell me to stop being scared of fun. That busy was just another word for afraid. And you know what? She was right. Harper squeezed Catherine's hand. I bet she wants her stuff to help other kids, like Mommy's clothes helped other moms. Catherine opened the door. The room was frozen in time. Purple walls, princess decorations, bookshelves full of stories, a bed with stuffed animals arranged exactly the way a 7-year-old had left them 5 years ago. They spent 4 hours there, Catherine, Nate, and Harper. Sorting, deciding, crying. Laughing sometimes at memories Catherine shared. Harper helped pack toys, ask questions about Madeline, what she liked, what games she played, what made her laugh. Catherine answered every question. Found herself smiling at memories instead of just hurting. Can we keep some things, Harper asked. Some of Madeline's books for me, so I can read them and kind of know her. Catherine's vision blurred. Yes, pick whichever ones you want. Harper chose carefully. 3 books about princesses, 2 about animals, 1 about a girl who could fly. Thank you, Catherine said, for giving them a good home. They boxed everything else. Clothes for donation, toys for children's hospital, books for the library, decorations for foster care organizations. Nothing wasted. Everything given to people who needed it. Alexander's office was harder, personal, intimate, his desk, his files, his aviation magazines. Photos of him flying small planes before the crash that killed him and Madeline both. Nate found a letter in a desk drawer, sealed envelope, Catherine's name in Alexander's handwriting. I think you need to read this alone, Nate said. She took it, hands shaking, opened it while Nate and Harper went downstairs to pack boxes. When she came down 20 minutes later, her face was blotchy from crying. But something had shifted. Some weight had lifted. He wrote it before the flight, she said, like he knew. He said if anything happened, I had to promise to keep living, to not freeze, that I deserved happiness, that Madeline would want me happy. She showed Nate the last paragraph. Kat, if you're reading this, something went wrong. And I need you to know loving someone after me isn't betrayal. It's honoring what we had by not letting it destroy what you could have. Live, please. For Madeline, for me, for yourself. You deserve joy. Don't forget that. Man, Nate handed it back carefully. He loved you enough to let you go. Yeah, he did. They finished packing Alexander's things. Kept photos. Kept his pilot's license and logbook. Kept letters and mementos. Let go of everything else. By evening, the house felt different. Lighter. Not empty, but breathing. Room for new memories instead of being crushed under old ones. Catherine ordered pizza. They ate in the kitchen while Harper told elaborate stories about her week at school. Catherine listened. Really listened. Laughed at the right parts. Asked questions. Present. After Harper fell asleep on the couch exhausted from emotional labor, an 8-year-old shouldn't have to do, Nate and Catherine sat in the kitchen. Quiet. Comfortable. Thank you, Catherine said. I couldn't have done that alone. You could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. What do we do now? Now we keep going, keep healing, keep having Saturdays. Just Saturdays. Nate looked at her, really looked. Saw someone who'd become essential. Someone who made loneliness less heavy. Someone who understood. What are you asking? Catherine reached across the table. Took his hand, the way she had on the park bench, but different now, intentional. I'm asking if maybe we could be more than Saturday morning friends. If maybe we could try being something else, something real. Catherine, I know it's complicated. I know we both have so much baggage. I know Harper has to come first to voice. But I also know I care about you, about both of you. And I don't want to waste time being afraid when life is so short and uncertain. Nate's heart was hammering. I care about you too, but I need to be Korean for Harper. I can't let her get attached to someone who might leave. She's already lost her mother. I can't risk her losing you too. Then don't. Don't risk it. Be certain. Because I'm not going anywhere. I'm all in. Whatever this becomes, however long it takes, I want to try. Ooh, he kissed her. Gentle. Careful. Like something precious that might break if handled wrong. She kissed him back. And for the first time in 3 years, Nate felt something besides grief. Felt possibility. Felt hope 3 months later. Before the Saturday game started, Harper pulled Catherine on. Can I ask you something private? Of course, sweetie. Harper chewed her lip. 8 years old and carrying questions too big for her age. Do you love my daddy? Catherine crouched down. Eye level. Honest. I do. Very much. Like how mommy loved him. Different, not better or worse. Just different. Your mommy will always be your mommy. Always. I'm not trying to replace her. I know, but if you love daddy and you love me, does that mean you'll stay? Because I really don't want you to leave. I already lost mommy. I don't want to lose you too. Catherine pulled Harper into a hug, held her tight. I'm not leaving, I promise. I'm here for as long as you and your daddy want me. Harper squeezed tighter. 14 seconds, she whispered. starting to count. Catherine counted with her, 1 through 14, the number that meant I love you. When they pulled apart, Harper smiled. Okay, I just needed to make sure. Nate had been watching from a distance, saw the hug, the counting, the smile after. Harper ran back to him. It's okay, Daddy, she's staying. Yeah, I asked, she promised. 1 year after that night in Catherine's office, after midnight, city lights below, the same view where Nate had found her crying. But tonight was different. Tonight was anniversary. 1 year of Saturday mornings. 1 year of healing together. 1 year of building something new without erasing what came before. Catherine stood by the window, music playing, the same melancholic melody. But this time Nate was there beside her. Dance with me, he asked, like that first night. No, not because we're broken. Because we're healing. Because we chose this, chose each other, chose to keep living. They moved in slow circles, no tears this time, just presence, just gratitude. Harper asked me something yesterday, Catherine said. What? She asked if I would be her bonus mom, said she knows I'm not her real mom and never will be, but maybe I could be the mom who came second, the one who stays. Nate stopped dancing. What did you say? I said I would be honored, that I love her, that I love you, that I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her, long, deep, sure. I love you too, both of you, my girls. They danced until the music ended, until the night grew late, until it was time to go home. Home. Catherine's house that was now their house, where Harper's space posters hung next to Madeline's princess decorations, where photos of Isabel and Alexander sat side by side on shelves, where three people who'd survived the worst were building something beautiful from the pieces. Harper was asleep when they got back. Mrs. Sullivan had stayed late. She smiled when she saw them. Knew, understood. She's a good girl, Mrs. Sullivan said. You're both doing wonderful. After she left, Nate carried Harper to her room, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. Love you, Daddy, she mumbled without waking. Love you, sweetheart. In the hallway, Catherine waited, took his hand. Come to bed. We have another Saturday morning coming. Another week of being family. Another chance to choose each other. They walked together past photos of people who weren't there anymore, but whose love had made this possible. Past evidence of loss and survival, and the courage to try again. 1 year, 365 days of choosing each other, of Saturday mornings and weeknight dinners, of Harper's homework and Catherine's board meetings, of navigating grief together instead of drowning in it separately. Nate had been promoted 6 months ago, not because of Catherine, because Margaret Walsh had discovered his MIT background and insisted the company was wasting talent in the warehouse. Now he was director of operations. Day shift, home by 6. Still time for Harper, still time for all of them. Catherine had photos on her desk now, not hidden, not shameful. Alexander and Madeline in one frame, Harper and Nate in another, past and present existing together. Harper called Catherine by her name still. Not Mom, not Mama, just Catherine. And that was perfect, because Catherine wasn't replacing anyone. She was adding to what already existed. At school, Harper's emergency contact form listed 3 people: Dad, Catherine, Mrs. Sullivan. Her family had expanded, differently shaped than before. But whole, Griffin Blake had moved to California, took a position with a tech startup, sent Catherine an email 6 months after leaving. I'm sorry, you were right. I was trying to fix you instead of just being with you. I hope you're happy. She was. In the bedroom, they now shared photos of 4 people who weren't there anymore, watched over them. Isabel, Alexander, Madeline, and in Harper's room, a small shrine she'd built herself, Mommy's favorite book, Madeline's Princess Crown, a drawing Harper had made of all 5 of them together floating in space among the stars. They can see us from up there, Harper had explained, and they're happy. We're happy. That's what I think. Nate and Catherine lay in the dark, holding each other, listening to Harper sleep down the hall, safe, loved, whole. Tomorrow's Saturday, Catherine whispered. Best day of the week. Always will be. He kissed her. She kissed him back. And for the first time in years, tomorrow felt like something worth waking up for. They'd been warehouse supervisor and CEO, strangers passing in corporate halls, 2 people invisible to each other until grief made them visible. Now they were family, different, scarred, but healing. And that was enough. More than enough. That was everything.